For the past few months, there's been a lot of conversation about the new charter agreement which the teams are required to sign before the season comes to an end. NASCAR gave the teams a deadline a few weeks back. While most of the teams signed the agreement, 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports refused to do so. And now, things have taken a turn for the worse and NASCAR is in a lot of trouble. On October 2nd, 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports decided to file a joint antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR. They're accusing the governing body of NASCAR of anti-competitive and monopolistic control of the sport. Both 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports shared a joint statement. "We share a passion for racing, the thrill of competition, and winning," read the joint statement. "Off the racetrack, we share a belief that change is necessary for the sport we love. Together, we brought this antitrust case so that racing can thrive and become a more competitive and fair sport in ways that will benefit teams, drivers, sponsors, and most importantly, fans." Ever since the start of the negotiations, Denny Hamlin has been vocal about what he and the other teams are looking for in a new contract. They wanted the teams to earn more money and have more control in the sporting rules and regulations. However, NASCAR has said that they will not do so. Front Row Motorsport and 23XI included a list of what they called anti-competitive practices from NASCAR leadership. Buying a majority of the premier racetracks that are exclusive to NASCAR races, imposing exclusivity deals on NASCAR-sanctioned racetracks, acquiring Automobile Racing Club of America, or ARCA, the only notable stock car racing series competitor, preventing teams from participating in any other stock car races while also retaining ownership over next-gen parts and cars, forcing teams to buy their parts from single-source suppliers chosen by NASCAR. Given that NASCAR is a private organization, they've been operating and have been forcing the other teams to adhere to their rules. Out of the 13 teams that signed the new charter agreement, most of the team's representatives commented that they felt coerced to do so and felt like they had no other choice. But 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports stood their ground. Here's what 23XI Racing co-owner Denny Hamlin had to say. "It's actually pretty simple in my opinion. When I look around, I see that the best and most competitive sports in the world understand that when teams thrive, fans benefit, and that everyone who invests in making the sport a success should share fairly in that success. With the right changes, we can certainly make that a reality in racing." Hamlin's point is that all the fans come to watch their favorite teams and drivers race in NASCAR. Hence, the teams and drivers must also receive a higher percentage of the revenue that is earned by NASCAR. Michael Jordan, another co-owner of the 23XI Racing team, was completely in support of the lawsuit and just wants NASCAR to treat the teams fairly. "Everyone knows that I have always been a fierce competitor, and that will to win is what drives me and the entire 23XI team each and every week out on the track. I love the sport of racing and the passion of our fans. But the way NASCAR is run today is unfair to teams, drivers, sponsors, and fans. Today's actions show I'm willing to fight for a competitive market where everyone wins." While 23XI Racing is a new team to NASCAR, Front Row Motorsports has been in the sport for 20 years. Their owner, Bob Jenkins, believes that it is time for NASCAR to change their mindset and structure. "I've been a part of this racing community for 20 years and couldn't be more proud of the Front Row Motorsports team and our success. But the time has come for change. We need a more competitive and fair system where teams, drivers, and sponsors can be rewarded for our collective investment by building long-term enterprise value, just like every other successful professional sports league." To be clear, both 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsport wants to remain in NASCAR for the future. They're not looking for a settlement that will make them drop the case. They want NASCAR to renegotiate the charter agreement so the teams are fairly compensated for their contribution to make NASCAR successful. In order for this to happen, the teams believe that NASCAR cannot be a dictatorship where all the power lies with the France family. Instead, it should be a partnership with NASCAR's ownership, leadership, and the teams. And this is exactly what 23XI Racing's other co-owner, Curtis Polk, said about the lawsuit. "A true partnership, not dictatorship, is our goal. For over 2 years, I have dedicated myself to championing a more fair and transparent system within NASCAR, where we recognize the importance of the France family and the sanctioning body, but do what is best for all stakeholders. The charter that was forced on the teams with only hours' notice does not accomplish these objectives. The new charter is an attempt to further marginalize the team's voices in the sport and consolidate control and the power in the hands of the France family for their sole benefit. I hope our actions today lead to a future of collaboration for this great sport we love." 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsport just want a deal where everyone wins, and that is something NASCAR is not willing to give. According to Polk, the teams receive a total of only 13% of the revenue generated. Given that the drivers average around $3 million in salaries, all the drivers put together earn about $100 million. This is very much less compared to the $3 billion NASCAR earns in revenue every year. Lawsuits like these will usually take months or maybe even years to conclude. Hence, both teams have a plan to remain on the NASCAR grid as the lawsuit continues. In the coming days, we will file a preliminary injunction to enable our teams to race in the next calendar year under the 2025 Charter Agreement, while continuing to pursue our antitrust litigation. The filing will seek discovery from both NASCAR and Jim France related to their exclusionary practices and intent to insulate themselves from any competition. 23XI Racing and Row Motorsports will seek treble damages for the anti-competitive terms that teams have been subject to under the 2016 Charter Agreement. Both Row and 23XI Racing are looking to remain on the NASCAR grid under the 2025 Charter Agreement. Once a new agreement is finalized, all the teams will transition to the new terms and conditions. 23XI Racing and Row Motorsports have hired Jeffrey Kessler to represent the teams. He'll be taking on NASCAR in this lawsuit. Here's what he had to say about the lawsuit. There is no other major sport where one family has run of that sport as its own personal, free stub and piggy bank the way that NASCAR has been run, Kessler said. We'll see what impact that has in terms of how they try to defend themselves. We'll see what impact that has in terms of whether it's possible to settle this case, or whether we have to take it all the way through trial. Either way, we are prepared to do what's necessary to effectuate change. Given that this will be an antitrust lawsuit, NASCAR stands to lose a lot from it. An antitrust lawsuit can have significant negative implications for NASCAR, affecting its business model, competitive landscape, and overall operations. Antitrust laws are designed to prevent monopolistic practices, promote fair competition, and protect consumers. If NASCAR were to face an antitrust lawsuit, several consequences could arise that might hurt the organization and its ecosystem. An antitrust lawsuit could lead to hefty legal fees, fines, and settlements. For a large organization like NASCAR, even if they have significant financial resources, these costs could divert funds away from critical areas like driver development, race promotions, or track improvements. Furthermore, if the lawsuit leads to punitive damages or mandatory restructuring, it could weaken the company's financial health over time. NASCAR operates as a tightly controlled governing body with exclusive rights to sanction events, control media deals, and establish rules for teams and tracks. An antitrust lawsuit could challenge this centralized control, accusing NASCAR of monopolistic practices that hinder competition within motorsports. This could lead to demands for restructuring how NASCAR operates, potentially opening the door for rival organizations to host races or share broadcasting rights. If NASCAR were forced to relinquish some of its control, it could hurt the consistency and appeal of the sport, which relies on a unified product offering. NASCAR's ability to control schedules, venues, and media contracts in a cohesive way helps maintain its identity and brand power. An antitrust lawsuit might force NASCAR to make concessions that benefit smaller, less established competitors. If NASCAR is found guilty of limiting competition through exclusivity contracts or other restricted practices, they may be compelled to allow other race sanctioning bodies to compete in ways that could dilute NASCAR's influence. This could lead to a fragmented motorsport market where NASCAR has less control, affecting everything from sponsorship deals to viewership numbers. Any major lawsuit, especially one tied to antitrust accusations, can damage NASCAR's reputation. A prolonged legal battle might make the organization seem predatory or unfair in its business practices, alienating fans, sponsors, and business partners. NASCAR has worked hard to build a loyal fan base and a trusted brand over the years, and an antitrust lawsuit could put that trust in jeopardy, especially if negative headlines dominate the news cycle. NASCAR teams and drivers are heavily reliant on the current system for their livelihoods. If an antitrust lawsuit results in significant changes to the structure of the sport, such as restructuring of race payouts, media revenue sharing, or sponsorship deals, it could disrupt the financial ecosystem teams depend on. Smaller teams might struggle to survive, while larger teams could face limitations on how they operate or engage with sponsors. An antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR would not only pose financial and operational risks, but could also weaken the entire structure of the sport. The centralized model that has helped NASCAR maintain its identity and market power could be fractured, leading to long-term challenges for both the organization and the broader motorsports industry. What are your thoughts on the lawsuit? Do you think the teams and drivers should earn more money? Post your thoughts in the comment section below.